If you've watched any of our end times teachings, you know that while we lean to a particular view for Yeshua's return, we try to stay open to multiple different perspectives. In today's teaching, we want to present you with a consideration we believe has been overlooked. It's an understanding we believe is extremely possible, and it all points back to Moses. Remember, Yeshua is the prophet likened unto Moses. Let's talk about it. Hey, this is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. So, let me give you a brief breakdown of what I see possible, and then I'll explain why. I believe that just as Moses came down from the mountain 40 days after Shavuot and found the people rejoicing at the golden calf, I believe Yeshua could come down likewise 40 days after Shavuot and find the people rejoicing at the Ark of the Covenant, that which Ezekiel describes as the idol of jealousy, as noted in our teaching, What is the Idol of Jealousy? Now, I'm not certain this will be the time of the resurrection. Now, it could be, but I really believe this will be when all will see him coming down, as noted in Revelation chapter 1, verse 7, and also noted in Luke chapter 21, verse 27. If it's not the time of the resurrection, it's not long after this that the resurrection does take place. This could explain why we see Yeshua say this in Luke chapter 17, verse 30. It will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, no one who was on the roof of his house with his goods inside should go down to get them. Likewise, no one in the field should go back for anything. This shows there's action on the part of the believer before the resurrection, and it's when he's revealed. He didn't say, if you're out in the field, just wait and I'll come by to pick you up. No, he said, go. This is also seen in the parable of the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. They're told to go out to meet him. And the wise did. And when they were out there, they were let in, implying the resurrection happened after they went out. Now, please note, there's no time allocated for how long they were waiting out there. Many perspectives could be given on these verses, and we're definitely open. I just want us to be cautious in saying this has to be how it is. For what it's worth, I believe it's quite possible Yeshua comes down in the New Jerusalem. Now, as odd as that may sound to some, I really believe it's possible. We cover that in our teaching, The Coming Alien Invasion and Bible Prophecy. Now, that's everything in a very small nutshell, all focusing on Yeshua coming 40 days after Shavuot. Now, this teaching connects two of our previous teachings together, the golden calf and the end times from 2021, and before the harvest from 2022, a teaching we first thought tied with our Day of Atonement teachings, but can now see it pointing to the 40 days after Shavuot. As we noted in our teaching, the golden calf and the end times from 2021, we've already paralleled the 40 days of Moses coming down from the mountain to the 40 Jubilees, 2,000 years, of Yeshua coming back. But we never considered the 40th day being the actual day Yeshua could indeed come back on. Knowing Yeshua is the prophet likened unto Moses, and Yahweh makes known the end from the beginning, it makes sense that the 40th day after Shavuot could indeed be the day Yeshua comes down to find his people rejoicing over the idol of jealousy, just as Moses came down to the people rejoicing around the idol of the golden calf. Many of you know we believe the days are cut short, as Yeshua said they would be. However, we believe the days are cut short by having them delayed and not having it all cut off at the end. Thus, what we see in Revelation 10 when we see there was a delay from things starting. We see here in verse 2 how Yeshua is holding the scroll that was sealed back in chapter 6. But now we see it opened. But the events from those seals haven't happened yet. Thus, they were delayed. The text could imply the seals will happen very rapidly back to back since they've already been broken. But we believe this delay could go right into the timing linked to the 40 days of Moses after Shavuot, the time when all the people were wondering what happened to Moses, just like people are wondering about Yeshua today. This actually goes right in line with the parable of the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. That parable seems to imply the bridegroom misses his wedding day, Shavuot, and we see it's not till later that he comes for them. So what are some other parallels that can tie the day Moses came down the mountain to the time Yeshua comes back? Moses ground up the golden calf, put the ashes of it in water, and made everyone drink it. This was to find out who was guilty. The unfaithful would be found out by way of a swollen abdomen and weakened thighs. Thus, the 3,000 who died that day were marked because of their unfaithfulness, and the Levites knew who to kill. How do we know this? Because it's described in Numbers chapter 5, the law of the jealous husband. Remember, they had just entered into covenant with Yahweh, the jealous God. In this law, the woman is made to drink the bitter water to find out if she was guilty. If she was guilty, she would have a swollen abdomen and weakened thighs. And so we see this was what Moses did to identify the adulterers. Now, as I mentioned in the teaching, the first 5 trumpets, the first 5 trumpets all take place at the 6th seal, the time of the resurrection. Consider what we see at the 3rd trumpet. The people are given bitter waters to drink. Why? To find out who's guilty. He makes known the end from the beginning, ancient times, what is still to come. That which took place with Moses, with the golden calf, will take place in the end times with the idol of jealousy. Those found to be unfaithful will be killed. While at first glance we assume the people die immediately because of the water in this verse, and that's very possible. However, it could also be that the waters simply identify who's to be killed later. Then, at the time of the golden calf, Moses calls for all who are on Yahweh's side to stand behind him. The Levites join him, the tribe from which the priesthood comes. The parallel? A call goes out for all the faithful to go out to meet Yeshua. The wise virgins go, those who will become part of the eternal priesthood after the millennium. Moses commands the Levites to kill the adulterers who have been identified after drinking the water. They knew exactly who to kill. The guilty would have a swollen abdomen and weakened thighs. They wouldn't even be able to run. Just as Moses commanded the guilty to be killed, likewise, Yeshua leads the 144,000 in the battle of Armageddon to kill those found guilty. The guilty were marked by the painful sores. And please take note here, they worship the image of the beast. The image of the beast is the Ark of the Covenant, the very thing they will be rejoicing over when Yeshua comes down as Moses found them around the idol of the golden calf. Please see our teaching, The Image of the Beast. Considering more parallels, when Moses came down from the second time of spending 40 days on the mountain, we see his face was shining and it scared everyone. And that's what we see in Revelation 10 with Yeshua. his face will be shining like the sun. Now, I know some would say, then shouldn't we consider the timing of the second time Moses came down for the timing of Yeshua's return? Indeed we should. It's very possible. But this could be where we see history being cyclical but not exactly identical. You see, there won't be a need for Yeshua to go back up and make new tablets like Moses had to. Remember, that's the reason Moses had to go back up, to take 2 new tablets up the mountain. Thus, both instances of Moses coming down are a foreshadow of what happens when Yeshua comes down. The people dancing and rejoicing at the idol of jealousy, and Yeshua's face shining like the sun. Another parallel to this timing is the very fact that Moses and Yeshua are both bringing a new covenant. Both founded on the Torah, of course, but both bringing a new covenant just the same. Moses was a long time in coming, and just like the people were wondering about Moses, people have been wondering the same of Yeshua. Now, we know some tried to apply the verse where Aaron said, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to Yahweh," to that of the man-made feast of new wine. This traditionally comes 50 days after Shavuot. However, even if one tries to apply the 7 days noted here in Exodus 24 as separate from the 40 days Moses was on the mountain, you still only have 47 days, 48 at the most. And being the fact that I've personally been to Mount Sinai, I can tell you it's not a multi-day journey up and down the mountain, even for Moses at 80 years old with Joshua at his side. So, no, this wasn't the people celebrating an existing man-made feast, the Feast of New Wine. This was the people taking a sad and drawn-out time of waiting for Moses and turning it into a time of a feast. Ironically, we see the 40th day after Shavuot land right between the first of the 4 fasts that are prophesied to be turned to feasts. These fasts are noted in Zechariah chapter 8. And while many might say, but wait, the context shows this to be a time of true celebration with Yeshua and not the Antichrist. We agree, but we must remember this will be a time of deception, as Yeshua said. Thus, the Antichrist will do everything to make the prophecies of Yeshua and the timing of his return apply to himself. Thus, all the prophecies regarding prosperity to Jerusalem will be falsely applied when the Antichrist arrives, and will most likely begin when the Ark of the Covenant comes out. Remember, Yeshua said it would be a time that would deceive the very elect if that were possible. Thus, it will look like the original. Thus, all the prophecies of promise regarding Yeshua will be believed upon the Antichrist. Thus, the fast turned to feasts will be looked upon that way as well. That all being said, the grape harvest in the Middle East does indeed normally begin in July and continues through October. This places the start of the grape harvest during the 40-day mark after Shavuot, the day Moses came down. That being said, please consider Isaiah chapter 18, starting in verse 3. All you people of the world. So, the context is talking to everyone. You who live on the earth, when a banner is raised on the mountains, you will see it. And when a trumpet sounds, you will hear it. This is what Yahweh says to me. I will remain quiet and will look on from my dwelling place, like shimmering heat in the sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. So, it's harvest time. Verse 5. For before the harvest. Now, as noted in our teaching before the harvest, the word for before here actually means in the face of. So it's talking about placement, not timing. Thus it means when looking at the harvest, not before the harvest begins. Continuing on. When the blossom is gone and the flower becomes a ripening grape. The flower becomes a ripening grape, meaning it's the very start of the harvest. He will cut off the shoots with pruning knives and cut down and take away the spreading branches. They will all be left to the mountain birds of prey and to the wild animals. The birds will feed on them all summer, the wild animals all winter. What does this verse say happens at the start of the grape harvest? Judgment. Showing us all the more that this is lining up with the timing of the 40th day after Shavuot, that lands between the two fasts that are turned to feasts and comes at the beginning of the grape harvest. This could make sense with the two harvests noted in Revelation 14. The first one, noted in verses 14 through 16, could be the first wheat harvest delayed, and the second is the grape harvest for the start of the wrath in verses 17 through 20. And this could all be very easily what we see in Ezekiel chapter 9. Within these verses, we see a sealing of people, immediately followed by a slaughtering of people in the city of Jerusalem, just like we see in Revelation 14. One harvest and then immediately the next. This could very easily be the end of the siege when Jerusalem is surrounded, as noted in Ezekiel chapter 4. After the siege, the war begins. Thus, the slaughtering begins. And Revelation says the blood rises as high as the horses' bridles outside the city. It will be in the midst of this destruction and devastation that the Antichrist rises up and brings victory to the modern state of Israel. This is explained in our teaching, the Assyrian. So, doesn't it stand to reason at least a little that just as Yeshua has been gone for 40 jubilees, as Moses was gone for 40 days, that Yeshua's return could be in like pattern of the same time of year as well, 40 days after Shavuot? If that's the case, when the right year comes along, we'll see the people rejoicing and dancing for an idol. And that idol will be the idol of jealousy, the Ark of the Covenant. I believe this perspective gives us something to pray about regarding the timing to Yeshua's return. Another consideration to the season of his return. Exactly how it could all play out, well, it's yet to be seen. However, somewhere in the midst of this understanding, we could see things play out. I believe it's very possible indeed. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.